Due to the following CBS School Break special, Magnum PI will not be seen today. It will be broadcast tomorrow in the regular time period.
Please support the Word Balloon podcast by going to patreon.com/wordballoon. Become a part of the League of Word Balloon listeners. That's patreon.com/wordballoon. Welcome back, everybody. It's time again for Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here. Happy to welcome Al Ewing back to Word Balloon.
Cool.
We had a little technical issue last time we tried to talk, Al, but I think we've ironed out all the bugs and we're cool tonight.
I think so. Audio seems to be working this time. Microphone seems fine. Keep your fingers crossed.
Indeed.
But it should be okay. It should be
Indeed.
fine.
Internet gods do not fail us. Absolutely, man. But no, really, really excited to have this conversation, Al. I've really been enjoying your stuff for a really long time, and really, really thrilled with the current crop of books. One that I'm really sorry to see go away is sadly Metamorpho. Bummer.
Yeah, that's a bummer. It is what it is. It's just one of those cases. The first issue came around around the holidays. Always a tough time. It's Metamorpho. It's like I am really happy with what we did. I just actually got the last issue, comps of the last issue in the through the door today. I've got some kind of variant cover here.
Oh, lovely. Hold it up, Al. Let's see. I don't know who drew that, but that's
give you a
beautiful.
proper look at it. Try and get my
Oh, that looks great.
trying to get the light from the screen off it. It's very
We
shiny.
got it.
Yeah, I think that's backwards, but it's like I was reading through it this morning, and I'm just really proud of what me and Steve and the rest of the gang managed to do with this. So issue 6 is absolutely yeah, grab that when it drops. I don't know if that's. Hang on, I really ought to check these things.
It's next Wednesday. It's next
It's
Wednesday.
next Wednesday. There we go. So it's not tomorrow, but it is next Wednesday. Good.
Yeah. No, I've seen it. And it's man, it's a great ending, and it makes me sad, but we'll hope for the best, and maybe down the road you can come back to it in some way.
Maybe we'll get another shot at it one day. I feel like it's something I've had I think the most fun doing in a long time. I've just it kind of came along at the time when I was doing quite a lot of heavy books. I was sort of in preparation for the absolute Green Lantern stuff. I was sort of in the middle of Thor. I was writing All New Venom, which is a very fun book, but it's got that kind of dark Venom edge to it. And Metamorpho, was a chance to just really have a good time. And I feel like by about there's a sequence in at the top of issue 4, that dream sequence at the top of issue 4. I remember just writing that and thinking, okay, now I'm firing on all cylinders. Like now it's really flowing like water. And I loved what Steve did with that. I love what Lee did with the colors. Fern on the lettering was absolutely wonderful. Just the perfect letterer for the book. And yeah, in 8 days, issue 6 will be out. I hope everybody gets it. I hope everybody picks it up. It's a really fun finale, and hopefully when the trade emerges, word of mouth will mean that people who've been sort of waiting on that and kind of waiting for their moment will kind of get a chance to read, I think, a very sort of fun bright, breezy comic, very fun, bright, breezy metamorpho. I suspect he's not gonna have as swinging a time in the James Gunn movie. I suspect, judging by all of the trailer shots we've seen of him, like in a cell, I've got no doubt that's gonna be. I'm gonna be in the cinema for that one.
I hear
I've
you,
got no
man.
doubt it's gonna be good.
Yeah, and again, I'm sorry that the book sadly isn't going to keep still be going in time for the movie to get hopefully more people interested that maybe haven't thought about the character in a while or never thought about the character before.
I
But
mean, these
yeah,
things happen. Hopefully, once the movie drops, people will get interested in the idea, and they can kind of come along and read up on our take on Metamorpho. They can read some of the original issues. I believe there's a collection coming out of some of the great old Bob Haney, Ramona Fredon stuff.
sure,
Um, be a great time to get into Metamorpho.
I'm with you,
Uh,
man. Yeah, I loved in the story that you told uh, connecting Java to Vandal Savage and having them
oh,
have
that was fun. I really, because I had to sort of dance between the raindrops a little bit on that because obviously Vandal Savage has kind of a big like plot line on now as part of the kind of Batman universe.
yep.
And obviously we didn't want to step on any of those toes. So you know, the old but as it turned out, the old kind of robot duplicate gag. Um, not to spoil anybody who hasn't read the issue. Um, but like that just made it much easier to kind of have him around and do a Vandal Savage bit. But I thought, yeah, he and Java, they really should know each other. They're both from like similar time periods.
Yep.
It's just fun if they know each other. Um, it's the kind of like little detail I love to kind of turn up in comic continuity.
I like how you made Java too kind of snide and a bit more smarter Java than we've maybe
Well,
gotten, certainly than the Haney and Ramona days.
as
But
like I said last time, just as my mic was cutting out, that was me standing on the shoulders of giants in that I was really taking a cue from like his portrayal in the Terrifics, like rather than without making him. I did a little bit of retconning, I didn't want him, which we were eventually going to explain, and we may yet, but like I do have like an explanation for all of that, in the noggin. But like no, I remember there was an amazing backup strip. Um, by Mark Russell, I believe, which was sort of like talking about his turn to evil. Um, and I really liked that version of Java as just this kind of very melancholy figure, this very kind of sad. Um, so there was a sort of, I kind of building on that. I had an idea of him. I had an idea of his place in like the cast because Metamorpho's got one of the great casts, the great supporting casts. And like I had this vision of him in the cast, playing a very different role to how he did back in the Haney Fredon days. I thought it'd be good if he was like the one sane man in the madhouse. He was like it kind of very quickly became his job to like, point out how nutty everything was and like look kind of like just be just horrified at all of the goings on. And that kind of that almost gave like it gave Sapphire a lot more freedom to be kind of kookier and weirder and more of like a true kind of daughter of Simon Stagg. It meant Simon Stagg could just be completely off the rails all the time. It meant Rex didn't have to be playing the same man. He didn't have to be like rolling it out. He could be kooky and goofy and weird and kind of a little bit of a way out swinger because you had Java there as this sort of like as the straight man to all of this. Um and also kind of constantly kind of complaining. Um so yeah, it I do feel a pang of sorrow in my heart that having like finally got learned my way around all of these characters, I've got to say goodbye to them for now. But it's I can see I'll be I'll be guesting the Metamorpho gang and stuff. You know, probably
Great.
till the day I die. Probably till the day I die. I can't see like obviously, you know, in the absolute verse,
Right.
they take very different forms. But like in the reg, if
Oh,
I'm doing
interesting.
anything in the reg, if I, well, I don't know, we haven't thought of it yet.
All right, fair
Um,
enough. I was going to say, all right, you already got ideas for absolute metamorpho.
at the next meeting, they're going to pin me down and go, "So, what are all these metamorpho ideas you've got?" And I'm like, "Oh." But like, you know, it's like everybody in the absolute verse is an absolute version, so you know, we can take that as read. Um, but in terms of the regular verse, yeah, you know, if I'm ever like long term on anything, I'm gonna love to bring in Metamorpho for a little cameo from here. I've just fallen in love with them all.
That's great, man. And
Um,
it truly, yeah, I just feel you really have slipped on the DC shoes, and it's a comfortable fit. And you know,
it's
you're walking in the universe, man. And it's like, hey, I got
it's a
something here, man.
little different, but like, um, it's really fun because I used to read like a lot of DC back in, I want to say like the 90s, the 80s and the 90s.
Okay,
That was when I really, and you know, obviously I'm in, I'm a comics fan. I'm a, you know,
sure.
part-time, part-time kind of comics historian on like a hobby level. I'm kind of like, you know, I read a lot of comics. I've kept up with DC, but like, my real big DC reading periods as a kid was like the 80s and the 90s. And, you know, the 80s very much the kind of the Wally West era, like the Superman's triangle numbers, the kind of, you know, the three Superman books slowly turning into a weekly, adding a fourth, becoming
Yep.
like a proper soap opera, the super soap. Um, we loved that. That was like me and my brother were just like, we just picked that up. It was like, I'll have to ask my brother how, because I only just recently got into Twin Peaks, but like,
Interesting.
my brother Tom was kind of in there, like, right, you know, as it happened at the time, and I'll have to
Okay.
ask him how it compared to like the Superman soap opera at the same time. I suspect they were a little different,
A little bit,
but
but you know,
yeah, no, it was really, you had this, you know, every issue was like about 10 pages of like a fun fight with Superman, and then the other 10 pages would be like Jimmy's been evicted again. Jimmy
yes,
can't find a job.
true,
What's happening with Jimmy? Jimmy's hanging out with a rock and roll person. What's going on here?
hilarious.
Jerry, Jerry Perry White's son is, you know, he's gone bad again. He's like that, the Bobby of the Superman verse. You
You're
know,
killing
he's
me.
like,
That's outstanding, man. Silhouette says, "I'd love to see you, Al, on the main Flash book after Cy Spurrier's run."
well, speaking of standing on the shoulder of giants, that would be a tough act to follow. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know. The Flash was one of my favorite, especially now that Wally West is kind of back in, you know, kind of back in the saddle, as it were.
Yeah.
Um, I do love Wally West. I do kind of. It'd be interesting, sort of like catching up with the whole, because I remember the very early Mike Baron days. I remember the William Master Lives era with like huge fondness.
Yes, sir.
And then Mark Waid comes along, and there's that flashier one, and there's that amazing thing that he does. He'll be blushing if he hears this, but there's that incredible like run that he does where Barry Allen seems to come back.
Yep.
And at the time, I was like, this is genius. This is brilliant. Because you know that was when I like got back into Inside Barry Allen's back. We got to read this,
Hell yeah.
and then it was like, oh man, this is the only way Barry Allen could come back as, like, you know, he's gone. And you know, I don't know if we like guessed that it was Professor Zoom, but it was like, you know, obviously the cover of the final issue spoiled it, and the way we kind of encountered it in the UK, we got a lot of. So I'm pretty sure we had like that final reveal. Like we kind of bought like 3 issues of it at once, and you know, the last issue was like the yellow suit, and it's like, you know. So we kind of went into it spoiled, but that almost allowed us to kind of really appreciate all the craft that went into that big reveal. So that was absolutely phenomenal. And of course, we just came away from that going, well, of course, Barry Allen can never return. And it's good that he doesn't. I'm happier now he's dead. And a few years later, he's back, and okay.
It's
But
so funny, Al, because I grew up with
I've learned to
Barry.
like Barry. I've learned
Yeah,
to love Barry again.
and I understand, man, because I was gonna say I so understand the generation under me that's like, yeah, fuck
Yeah,
Barry. We like Wally, man. And also, especially kids, they're not kids anymore, but people that grew up with Wally and saw him graduate from sidekick
yeah.
to the man, like you said, when Mike Barron and William
He
Messrs
went
Lopes
through.
were writing the character, and
He
it's like,
went
no,
through
he
all this
deserved it.
stuff.
So yeah, no, I understand, but
He
also I
went
won't
through so much
deny
stuff.
what's that.
He went. I was just gonna say he went through all this stuff. He kind of because in the Mike
Yeah,
Baron years, he was still a kid. He was kind of selfish. He was kind of like, he had a point about like he ought to get medical insurance for what he does, but um, it's like,
you're so funny. I remember that.
but that was great, and he had a point. It was played up as oh, Barry would be disappointed. It's like, oh, why? You ought to have medical insurance, Molly. But like, no, but I remember, and then he got really into like, he was hanging around with the Pied Piper. He was hanging around with all of these like
Yeah, and Captain Cold became pretty much a
fun
friend.
oddballs. Yeah, like
Yeah, yeah,
Tina McGee, Jerry McGee, all these amazing characters. Again, another brilliant chunk, another brilliant cast of characters, and it was like, yeah, it was fun. It was, and I kind of felt that was like almost his. It almost read like his college years. It almost read like he was kind of learning to be um, an adult, kind of,
yeah.
working out what he stood for, working out all this stuff. And then he kind of went into by the time you get to the Mark Waid era, like Mark's really playing it as like, yeah, okay, now the boy is gonna man. He's like a proper superhero now. He's like a proper,
Sure.
and now he's finally there and he's kind of taking the mantle in the most. And, if there's one thing Mark knows, it's like superhero mantles. It's like
True.
absolutely to come back to that amazing Return of Barry Allen story. That was like the ultimate Wally, Wally becomes the Flash. Like we thought he was before, now he really is.
Absolutely.
And it's like, but we got to kind of be there with him on this like 5 years, 7 or 8 years of this journey.
Agreed.
And that was wonderful. That was great. So yeah, that's a really good DC memory.
That's excellent, man. Man, already a ton of comments, and I'm so glad to see that, man. Caesar says Alan Flash would be a dream come true, which is absolutely, I hear you, man. Um, Justin says, "Hey Al, do you have a character with Marvel or DC you don't think you would want to write? I read Bendis didn't understand Ghost Rider, and that's why he never wrote them or him. Love your comics.
I mean, my go-to answer on this is generally the Punisher. I feel
Interesting.
like I wrote the Punisher like very briefly in Contest of Champions, and I
Hmm.
came up with like what I thought was a very fun narrative gimmick for him because I thought he should come across as like really kind of taciturn and like gruff, and he should be like very serious, almost in comparison to like Outlaw, who was like the British Punisher, who played a big role in that comic. But every sentence Frank said was exactly three words. He never said anything longer than a 3-word sentence. So it was just kind of grunting, and like I couldn't write a whole comic like that, but it was really fun. If I ever do him again as like a cameo, I'll probably do something similar because that really kind of that almost set like a subliminal tone of like the kind of guy this is, like not a word wasted, not a moment. But like in terms of, I don't know, in terms of like the Punisher, I feel like I'd be bad at writing the traditional Punisher story where he just takes on, some crooks and like guns them down and yeah, great. It's like it's the kind of the lie of the superhero that everything can be solved with a sock on the jaw, but like, you know, in the worst way possible with like, a gun in the hand. And it's like, the Punisher's more complicated than that. He's more interesting than that. He's more of a thing, but I don't know. I'd have a real trouble finding a better way to express that than somebody like Garth did.
Interesting.
Um, I don't know. I just don't think I've got a decent Punisher story in me unless they let me have him, go to some places that maybe he's not designed to go to. Um, but like, yeah, I just don't think I've got a decent Punisher story in me. Don't think, and at this stage, I'm gonna be like 50 in a couple of years. I don't feel like I've got time to work on things where I don't think I've got a decent story in me. So
You know,
Punisher's probably out at this stage, barring a bolt from the blue, barring some kind of like genius idea. I think I'm gonna leave him to like people with more to say about it.
I just reran because it's my 20th anniversary and I'm grabbing old, interesting interviews. And I had a Marvel press conference I was part of where Wade and Rucka were writing a Spider-Man, Daredevil, Punisher team up.
Oh man,
And Wade said that he goes, I never really understood Frank until I had conversations with Greg about Frank's whole being and everything. And he goes, he really had me think about just what his day was like and all this other stuff. And yeah, man, he goes, I mean, I
you
had to
kind of
write him for this team up, but he goes, yeah, talking to Greg kind of gave me an in of what to think
it's
of,
a little like I feel like probably what I'd end up doing with him was something like a little like Dread, a little like Judge Dredd. In
Understood. Sure.
Judge Dredd is somebody I find very easy to write. I just wrote another. There's a kind of summer special coming out from 2000 AD that I've got a
Oh,
brand new
great.
kind of Dredd story in. That's
Cool.
it's a 10 pager. It's fun. It's like I think the theme of the thing is like holidays, so it's sort of Dredd on holiday, and we're kind of returning the pitch. The pitch from Thug the Mighty was, can you do a sequel to this annual story from like 1989 where Dredd basically goes to the seaside and he can come back? But it's a very sort of Dread's full of kind of like it's allegedly set in America, but everything in it is kind of British. So like back in the day it was sort of Dread goes to a very British seaside. There's boarding houses, it's very much it's Yarmouth, it's Whitby, it's kind of places like that. And I kind of so I'm sort of doing that again, but I'm like it's 37 years later, times have changed. Um and it's kind of I guess I won't run you through the whole thing because I don't want to like spoil it before it comes out. But it is very much a sequel to that annual story from I think 1999. If you've got the Judge Dredd annual 1989, you can pull it out, and he fought Dracula.
Wow.
So I really did. I go to Whitby fairly often, which has it's got a thriving Dracula industry. So like that's sort of, and I did ask one of my notes to Matt was like, how much Dracula can we mention? Like, I'm a little surprised that you guys got away with using Dracula back in the day. He's quite. But apparently, we can drop the name like once or twice. That's fine.
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
So you can pick it up and you can see how we do like Dread versus Dracula too. But it
Well,
is it is informed by some of my own trips to the seaside.
that's great,
So
man.
yeah.
Carlos, Al, a lot of the times you use Jungian archetypes. What motivates your usage of these ideas in your superhero comics?
Um, when I was like a lot younger than I am now, but I probably had a comics career around the time I was sort of just starting to get stuff in 2000 AD. There used to be these books called like So and So for Beginners, and it was and the one people will probably know was Kafka for Beginners, which was illustrated by Robert Crumb. Um, and this one, and I think Freud for Beginnings was illustrated by Oscar Zarate. I don't know. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And Young for Beginners, I'm drawing a complete blank on who did that, but it was part of that series. And I picked it up, and it was this wonderful kind of like very heavily illustrated, almost like a comic book thing. Not quite sequential, more like, but a real sort of beginner's guide to the whole Jungian thing, and like Jung himself, like a brief potted biography of his life. Um, kind of, and just going through it, just like being introduced to the concepts in this very sort of easy reader friendly way. I feel like it was before I went to university, even because I used a bit of Jung in one of my kind of final papers for my English literature degree. Um, I feel like I'm trying to remember. I think it might have been one of the Shakespeare modules. It might have been King Lear. But like, yeah, basically, that was kind of when I got into, and it's purely like a kind of dabbling, hobby kind of thing. But I've always liked the idea of I always liked the kind of Jungian approach to mysticism as it was sort of presented there. Um, so I did bring a lot of, and stuff like the shadow side, things like that really kind of resonated with me as a writer. Um, just ways to use that. And obviously, the big example of that was when um, I did the Hulk run. But like I sort of bring it up, occasionally. I'll sort of bring stuff in. I guess it kind of informs a lot of my work in terms of like bringing sort of mystical elements into, quite sort of straight ahead genre stories. I don't know. I just really enjoyed reading that book. Really kind of introduced me to the idea that like this stuff was just kind of like so baked into the culture that like everything was full of these wonderful resonances. And I still like doing that. If I find something that really resonates, I guess the Resurrection Magneto book was like a recent example where I just kind of noticed that the tarot for the Five of Cups looked like, Magneto in his black uniform kind of facing away from the reader, and that kind of the whole sprung out of that to a real extent, especially when I mentioned it to like Luciano. And Luciano was like, "Oh yeah, I love the tarot too," and I was like, "Well, great, let's put loads of it in." But I don't know, I guess the Jungian thing, it's not I wouldn't say like I'm, a huge Jung person. Like I'm not one of these people that kind of bases their whole life on it, but like I like how sort of mystic elements can kind of intersect with life, I guess, and stories.
Okay. Okay. Al, I was asleep at the wheel and someone said that here, Justin said saw the Thor news Marvel released today.
Oh,
So
now
yeah, man, the legend begins. You're a
I
new number
haven't,
one.
yeah, I haven't actually seen this yet. I'm gonna look it up now because I got the thing saying, can you do us a quote on this? And I came up with one just for last night. But
Well,
let me
here,
just
I was going to
look up
say
the latest
I can read
news.
while you're looking. I can read what Marvel has released today, which is Thor's impending demise in the pages of Val Ewing's Immortal Thor has been teased for months.
Right.
Now learn about his upcoming rebirth. Following
Okay,
Immortal
right.
Thor 25 in July, Ewing will launch a new Thor run alongside artist Pascal Ferry, who makes a thunderous return to character following his acclaimed work during
Oh
Matt
yeah,
Fraction's
Pascal.
Thor
Yeah.
run. A major shift in Ewing's overall Thor narrative, Thor sets up a captivating new status quo for the God of Thunder, unlike any in his 60-year history. That's the opening. And
That's
obviously, I mean,
that's
yeah,
that's all correct.
all right.
Um that's yeah, that's
I
I
believe
can
Val's
confirm.
answer is yes.
I can confirm. I feel like the quote I want to find my exact quote because it's something like, hang on.
Sure, bud.
I'm having to look through like yeah, here we go. Yeah, no, I make it pretty clear that what is coming up in issue 25, that's the end of Act 1, and this new number 1 is going to be the beginning of Act 2. Um, and yeah, you can make some guesses. I think our idea was like we're gonna keep a few secrets. We're gonna keep a few secrets from the reader until that issue 1 drops.
Sure.
Uh, Purely because, and I mean, I'm not. Sometimes I do this. Sometimes we give away the whole farm um, before the drop. sometimes we try and keep it all ourselves. I'm never sure what the right move is. I know, like, sometimes you kind of keep a lot of secrets, and readers end up kind of speculating and then building. Do they want to get into the book or not? Kind of off those speculations rather than off what little you've mentioned. Sometimes you give away the whole farm, and it's just like, nah, I don't want to read that. In
Yeah,
this case, I think we're leaving a lot of clues. We're definitely looking at that cover, looking at like what we've been saying. We're leaving a lot of clues. This is something I don't believe has been done with Thor before. Um, he's died. He's
sure.
returned. He's done all that.
And he's
He's faced
returned.
death
You're right.
and he's returned. But like,
And
yeah, he's facing threats he's never faced from a place he's never been. I kind of, I will say I mean that as like Thor is in a place that he's never been before. I guess, some of these threats will also be coming from places that he's never been to, but like, it's Thor in a kind of like, and I am going to be a little careful with the spoilers here. I'm going to be a little bit cagey. I'm going to try and keep the cards close to my chest, but hopefully it's like a version of Thor that has never been done. Um, if like, if issue one drops and then somebody goes, obviously you missed what Roy Thomas did in 1972. I'm going to hold my hands up. I'm going to do a mea culpa. I'm going to say, I'm sorry. I honestly thought it was first. But as far as I know, I'm pretty sure I'm the first person to do this. And it's kind of it's a big part of the story I'm doing, like this long-term story of Thor that I'm doing over like, it's planned for like more than 50 issues now.
Wow.
But like, yeah, I've got a long form story planned with Thor. This is like the beginning of the end of Act One, the beginning of Act Two. Um, Once with the goal here, the plan is to kind of like do the absolute best Thor I can possibly do, and kind of, even if you love Thor now, I want to make you fall in love with Thor even more. That is the goal here. Um, like that is the kind of, but the goal of all of these things, the goal is to tell a bad story. The goal is always to tell the absolute best story I possibly can with every character I'm doing.
Understood.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, holy dollars. No,
Yeah.
it was
Chatham is saying that. Holy shit! I'm in for the long haul. More than
it
50 issues.
was
Jeez.
50. It was 50. I did have like a solid 50 in place. Like I was going, because I was thinking like, but then it was like, well, the ideas I'm having now, the thing I want to do now, which is starting with this new number one, the thing I want to do now, that's going to take longer. That's going to take a while to tell. I'm pitching, and I was pitching to the room. I was pitching to editorial, like, look, I think this is going to be real talk, guys. I think this is going to be a while. I think this is going to be a big story because we have to do this, we have to do this, we have to do this, and then I think we've also got to do this and this and this. And then we do no. And it's like, but they were going, yeah, that's however many issues of hits a day. Look at the lengths I'm going, yada yada yada. I'm having to do to all of these spoilers. But that was kind of how it went in the room. It was like, listen, I think it's longer than 50 now. I think we're looking at like, if I had to slap a number on it now, I think we're looking at like 62. Which isn't a magic number. It's just that I'm sort of doing the numbers in my head about like how long each act probably is. But we'll see when we get.
That's great, and truly, man, the additions to Thor's family and going back to his
Yeah,
grandfather and everything else that you've been doing has just
done.
been really, really spectacular to see. And of course, your use of Loki as well. But the
Yeah, I do
enchanters
love
was
Loki.
great. I mean, yeah, I just know the way you're exploring, not only Asgard, but what's come before Asgard and everything, and just these family
Yeah,
connections has just been really terrific to watch.
it's fun. I don't know. I feel like I really I really got a lot out of. I mean, Pascal Ferry is joining us again and doing some absolutely gorgeous work, absolutely
Yes.
beautiful. But like one of the big kind of influences on the run was little bits and pieces of the Matt Fraction run, and like more and more bits and pieces of that run as I went, because I realized like, oh, the keep would be really useful here.
Yes.
Oh, here's how we get from where Donald Blake was left in that run to where like Donnie picked him up again. So all of this stuff, but the scene that Pascal did so beautifully was like Odin giving his eye to the tree, giving his eye to the world tree. It was done in such a, and it was done in such a beautiful way. I believe it's in one of the tie-in issues to the. See that I want to say issue 8, but like numbers of issues are where I fall down. But like just it was such a beautiful sequence. It was such, it really caught the kind of like the it was almost beyond myth into a kind of like psychedelic sequence. And that really had an effect. So we kind of played it over again in in issue 2, but we changed the tree's dialogue, so that because we're returning to that every time when you return to a story, the story changes. So like now the dialogue coming from the tree is like it's for the present. It's not relevant to then. It's relevant to now. But like the original scene is there to read and it's beautiful. Um, and then there's the amazing the one I kind of came back to, and we touched on this very slightly in the giant size issue. Um, but we paired off a little more in 25. I feel like is the amazing the Ragnarok issues. Uh, it's Michael Avon Oeming on the writing.
Yes. I remember
I'm
that.
having real. I want to say, is it Steve Epting?
Oh, it
Am I
might
getting
be.
that
Yeah,
right?
God, and I'm racking my brain because no, I
If
remember
it's
even talking to
not,
Mike about that
please
then.
forgive me. If
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not,
yeah.
please forgive me, whoever it is. But like there's that wonderful sequence where Thor kind of gives both eyes to the well, and it's like that was such an amazing sequence, and like the amazing, he cannot walk the path that has been taken. That's so I do that made a big impression, and that's not again. Not to like spoil where we're going on issue 25 or after, but it's like
Yeah.
it's all about the path not taken. It's all about the path not yet taken. What is the sacrifice? What is the greatest sacrifice? What can be done now? And it's like, but it's very much kind of riffing off like the energy of those older comics while trying to do our own thing. Um, so that'll be a lot of fun.
I'm excited, man. No, and I know you got 2 more issues you have to left of Immortal Thor because people are asking kind of spoilery questions, and it's like I'm not gonna tax you with those, man. Because again, I
Yeah.
want you to tell your story. I mean, this
No,
is
I'm
a
very
tough
capable.
thing
Very
with marketing because they obviously want to talk about the next big thing, and obviously you're still
capable.
involved with Thor, but it's like, yeah, man. There's part of me that's always like, Jesus, let the man finish his story before you start pumping what's coming next. But
I mean,
solicit,
this
you
thing,
know how it is.
everybody wants to know. Everyone, especially as, let's face it, they're not a cheap hobby. They're a luxury hobby. You want to know that you're getting your bang for your buck, and I
True.
want to assure you of that. But even if you like all my stuff, there's only so many comics your wallet can handle. So you want to know if this is one of them. Obviously, I'm going to tell you that it is. I'm going to shamelessly tell you, please mortgage your house, buy Thor comics. But like, I do understand that you want all the info to know that you're making like a wise purchase. Um, the thing I kind of say, I'm like notoriously like unforthcoming. This is why I like doing like podcasts where I'm asked questions because I feel free to answer them, but I'm notoriously like unforthcoming on social media. I've got the promotional account now, which is literally just there's like uh yeah, I don't actually I kind of like I sort of nod whatever goes on there, but I don't kind of actually do it. I don't actually run it myself. Um
Wait,
but
now
like
is that your Blue Sky account? Which accounts are
yeah,
those on social media?
that's Al Ewing promotes Blue Skies is where to go
Ah,
for like news.
yes. I have
It's
seen
where to
that.
go for
Forgive me,
news and
Al,
stuff.
because yeah, I mean, I'm following you personally. I didn't real. I'm like,
The
I need to know
people
your promotional
Yeah,
shit. No,
people treat it like it's my actual account. But like you're following me personally, you get the real stuff.
attaboy. There
Such,
you go.
such as it is, mostly retweets. Um, Occasionally I'll get drunk and I'll curse Biffo at somebody who's annoyed me. Biffo the bear. That appalling creation, that dark god.
You're
But
killing me.
like, yeah, basically, I don't tend to answer many questions on social media. My thing is, listen, you'd rather read it in a comic than read it in a tweet.
Yeah,
Even if you know you're sort of flipping through it in the store, shall we say, you'd rather read it on the page.
I'm
You know,
hip. I'm absolutely hip.
um, it's you don't want to read it all in a tweet. You don't want me to tell you in a tweet. You got to like interpret these, and especially like cosmic law. I've got a really draconian rule, which is like anytime anybody asks me any kind of cosmic law question, I block them instantly. Um, and that's purely because it's like those were the only kind of questions I was getting for a while, and it was like, nah. I mean, for one, the next person to come along is going to rewrite it all anyway, and two, all of this stuff is like it's poetry to be interpreted. It's not like a chart to help you run a D&D campaign. It's it's like I mean, if you are going to go that route, I highly recommend the old novel Fasarep character. You know, the old Marvel Superheroes role playing game. Those are some beautiful books. I would highly recommend. Beautiful. I believe like Mike Zeck did a lot of the art on those. Just beautiful books. Like if you're into like stats and comparing heroes with each other and seeing who'd win in a fight, seriously pick those up. They're wonderful objects. They're beautiful. They're like I think you can get them all in PDF form now.
You're killing me.
But like the originals have their own wonderful. So yeah, I mean, I'm never, it's part of the fun. I'm never going to like completely take against it. But like as a writer, I feel like my job is not to be like the arbiter of these kind of arguments. It's to provide fodder. It's to provide like um evidence, but in always in a from my point of view, I want to write a great story. I want to like
Yeah,
what a hero can do is always in service to the story. And, if you're kind of asking me like who could win in a fight or like how all the cosmic stuff links together, um, my answer is always going to be like find your own answer.
I hear you.
Um, yeah,
Shut
yeah,
up.
yeah. You're getting it. You're getting it.
Yeah,
You're getting
never ask
the
Al about anything cosmic, chat him.
exactly. Never do.
Yeah, man.
It's harder for me to turn it down if you see me in person. If you catch me at a signing, then yeah, go nuts. I can't get away.
How about David's question regarding how do you feel about science fiction in Thor stories?
I love it. I was talking earlier about that amazing Pascal sequence. I really love like man, it's gonna be so good. Like I feel like I have to it's about to like drop some enormous spoilers. But like I really love the Kirby-esque. Because
Yes.
like Kirby himself kind of like they were like the Tales of Asgard, which were like much more kind of retellings of the myths. And then,
Yes.
but then Odin would like put on a giant science fiction hat and like Thor, order Thor, say, no, I've decided you have to go to the Black Galaxy and like investigate this cosmic space mystery with Galactus. And it's like, okay. And I really love that. I really love that. Like Thor is kind of it's high epic fantasy, but it's also this amazing science fiction world.
Agreed.
I love that. I think it all fits together wonderfully. I feel like every every Thor writer and every Thor artist kind of finds their own point of balance on that scale between the fantasy and the sci-fi. I've probably over time probably veered more towards fantasy, just because I guess it's more influence of like, mysticism in life and so on. But like when you travel to like Amblang, where I've got Bury hanging out, there's all these I forget if I even asked Martin for this, but like Martin drew these planets like crashing in the sky and like constantly like smashing together and like this, and we never explain why. Um but that's like pure science fiction imagery.
Sure.
But it's also almost dreamlike. It's this dream vision. Like I would have to go back through my script archive and look up whether I actually asked for that or whether I didn't. But like it was amazing, and I love any time we get to go back to like Tiwas or Buri, like hanging out in Anblang and like the great cosmic smashing together of planets in the sky. It's like I love stuff like that. That's great.
Mentioning and Kirby and everything, and also the time that he was doing it, and then what came afterwards. And I think this things he explored in 2001, and obviously the Eternals and things. There was this
Yeah.
great, this is when Chariots of the Gods was the book was
Oh
coming
yeah.
out. I mean, I was a little kid when all that stuff was coming out, and that's why I even love. I assume that it's out there in England as well. Ancient Aliens, and just this melding of mythology and science fiction. And I
Yeah,
think
I
it's
did.
really, really
Is that a,
interesting, and Thor plays
is that
into it
a TV
beautifully.
show? Is that a TV show, Ancient Aliens?
There is,
Because
yes, here in the States, yeah, and
right, I
it's
don't think we get that. Maybe we do. We probably have to look at it. We probably have to look for it rather.
I see.
Well, for a very long time, um, up until extremely recently, but from when I was a kid. When I was a kid growing up, we had like three TV channels,
I'm the
and then we got a fourth one, and that was like huge. That was like, oh my God, Channel 4. What's on Channel 4?
I'm hip,
Oh man,
yes.
it's all this insane stuff because they've got a budget of tens, and also they own all of these foreign language movies that are just full of nudity. So it was the Wild West for ages. And then Channel 4 settles down. Along comes Channel 5, which is like even lower budget, even kind of more pornographic movies. It's like they literally had every film you've ever seen with like a title like Games of Evidence 4, and then it's in the erotic thriller section of the video store. And it's like, the lead character is like a sexologist who has to solve a murder. Channel 5 owned all of them and broadcast them all. And I was a kid.
The Shannon
Did horror.
Tweed, collection, for example.
I was gonna say that it's yes, Shannon Tweed, Richard Grieco, all of those people.
Richard Grieco,
Richard
fantastic.
Grieco, yes.
Hilarious, man.
In
Andrew
this
Stevens,
one,
Stella
he's
Stevens' son, made all
yeah,
those
yeah, yeah,
Night Moves 3. Al,
yeah. Well, I
I'm
mean,
sorry to say, I was
yeah.
watching it on Skinamax, as we called it. Cinemax, was where
Oh
we
yeah. I
got
mean,
all of our throwaway nudity. So yeah,
Channel 5 was like the Skinamax of the UK, except it also had like terrible game shows.
interesting,
But
interesting.
but for what? For like the longest time, like up until like I want to say like my mid-30s. That was it. You had like a choice of five channels unless you got like satellite. But
Understood.
then
Yeah,
I think Freeview really started taking off, and suddenly we kind of had, depending on how good your aerial was, you could get like every channel developed like three kind of little spin-off versions of itself. Like there's a version of ITV, which is our like third channel that does like literally just reality shows all day long. And it's like, okay, so we can turn, if you want just some nonsense while you're eating your breakfast, you can, watch a little bit of that channel. Um, and for a while it was enough, except my aerial in my house just it completely crapped out of me, so I just ended up watching everything on streaming. Um, and then very recently, I upgraded my phone package, and now it comes with like a little box with all the TV in it. So
I'm
like
hip.
I'm back to having like 600 channels. And every single one of them is nonsense. There's a channel that does nothing but John Pertwee Doctor Who,
Oh,
which
yeah, my man.
obviously that's great in the that's a great thing to like watch with breakfast. But like
I love
it's
Pertwee.
like, and it's
Yeah.
the same three John Pertwee episodes
Oh
repeated
God.
throughout the day. I was like, okay, well, I guess eventually we're going to move on to Tom Baker.
Indeed.
But yeah, there's a Baywatch channel. There's a channel that does nothing but Baywatch.
Oh yeah, we've got those here too. We've got Pluto does like yeah,
Yeah,
and
yes, it's Pluto. It's all Pluto
I'm
TV.
hip. I'm hip.
But
Yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah, it's like basically, so somewhere out there is the Ancient Alien show. I don't tend to kind of rate those sort of 70s theories. I kind of feel like the reality is more interesting, like the engineering struggles of how people actually kind of, you know, Stonehenge, for example, how people got the blocks to the site
Sure.
without. I feel like that's more interesting than like, the kind of like aliens did it hypothesis is sort of a little bit. It's kind of like there was a whole raft of people in the 70s who just couldn't believe that like people could do anything. Um, but Jack Kirby got some amazing comics out of it, so
Yeah. Yeah.
and those were great comics. I really love what Kieran did with the Eternals just recently.
Hmm.
I really enjoyed that. It's sort of to big that up for a second. I really enjoyed Kieran's Eternals series. I thought that was one of the, and we kind of the X-Men kind of crossed over with it a little bit. So I got to play in the sandbox very slightly. I got to write one of his villains.
That's
Um,
awesome.
but yeah, that was a really good time as a reader. That was a really good. I've
Chatham
gone off on
wanted.
another tangent.
Oh
You
no,
were saying,
Al, tangents are welcome because again, we learn more about what you like and perhaps influences and things, and
yeah,
truly, you're I think providing information that I wouldn't have thought of asking you about. So this is great, truly. Chatham wanted to know where the idea of and we will eventually, folks. I promise you, we'll talk Venom, we'll talk Green Lantern, we'll talk about these other things as well. But no, I love these Thor questions. He wanted to know where the Utgard gods came from and how
um,
you came up with them respectively.
reading through the Eddas, reading through the poetic Edda especially, but I believe the best account of the Outgod story is in the prose Edda. Um, but like I kind of came across that, and I had floating around in my brain through osmosis, like Outgod Loki, because Skrymir had sort of like I knew Balder had like fought an Outgod Loki, and I went kind of back to like read that story. It's one of the classic Walt Simonson ones, and it was like, okay, I can't use that, but I can't use that in conjunction with this thing I found in the Eddas, but like there's something here. But I really liked, and I kind of went back and looked at like the Roy Thomas version, but like there was something about like Thor kind of traveling to this place and being like completely outclassed and it's all by illusions because what he's lifting is like various metaphors, which is great. I love that. But like Thor traveling to this place and just being just completely outclassed and outgunned and sort of having to deal with these sort of gods that are just sort of beyond him. Um, and in the Eddas, it's Jotunheim, it's Frost giants and their wizardry. Um, but like I like the idea that in the Marvel we could adapt this. We could create like an 11th realm, which sort of gets into it's and it of course well 10 is such a magic number, but like 11 isn't. So we can't have an 11th realm. We've got to have like just there's a no realm. There's a sort of abyss realm. It's like
Sure.
that point on the tree. But like we can sort of have a realm that is no realm. We can have like the zero realm.
Yes.
Um, and it's like so yeah. It all all of these thoughts. It's like a domino topple. All of these kind of ideas kind of came along, and as part of like the research process for Thor, because my original idea was like, well, let's kind of really so much of it kind of came out of those gods, those like sort of gods of the gods, and kind of like and some of the stuff I've been noodling around with Loki about like you know the status quo, and like this is a thing that Thor always has to fight, like the cycle of stories. Thor always has to fight these things. Can Thor defeat them? How can Thor defeat them? He's tried once and it failed because he needed to come back. He was like, he couldn't beat. Thor could beat those who sit above in shadow, but he couldn't beat comics. He couldn't fight comics. He couldn't fight his own brand. It was like, and then of course, immediately I have him try and fight his own brand. But
Love that.
like,
Love that.
yeah,
Al, such a meta story. Truly. I
it's
would
fun. That's me.
that,
I could
but
give you the secret of that one. That was basically we wanted to do like a backup bit for like one of the more anniversary issues.
okay.
Um, and it was like, oh well, around this time I've got Thor taking rocks, and basically because I needed a cliffhanger for this issue, I was like, oh well, here's a fun thing. Let's bring in Dario Agger again and have him buy Marvel Comics, and then we can do this, and we can have him like own the story of Thor. And that's really fun because, we all hate Dario Agger and he's a complete asshole. But Marvel Comics is a company that exists in the Marvel universe. And I've had fun with that before. And now we can have more fun. And basically, I kind of brought this story, and I was like, oh, listen, I'll do this 10-pager, and we'll have a lot of fun with it. It'll be a kind of goofy thing in the back. And then the editorial and the higher-ups, I think CB liked it, but the higher-ups liked the idea so much, they were like, can we make it a special? Can we do it as something? I was like, well, maybe if it fell between like 9 and 10. But like, and as I was writing it, I was going as like, well, I'm having the time of my life on this. I'm doing all of my gags. I haven't really been able to be funny in Thor yet, but like I can be funny in this for a while. But I was thinking, man, it's like people are going to be like, when people buy this and it's just goofs. Um, Oh, I better get serious, like just for a page. I better just drop in a page where we get very, just let's serve a horror bit in at around the 3/4 mark to just really unsettle people. And then when we go back to comedy, it'll be kind of queasy and like weird, and we'll get a little harsher with it. And so that ended up working really well. I had a really good time. I know Greg had a really good time on it. I've
Greg
heard
Land.
he had.
Yeah.
I've heard he thought it was really funny. Um, and it was good. A lot of the gags I was writing with him in mind because I knew that he would knock them out of the park. Um, Literally, the only note I could possibly give was that he made the Thor truck look beautiful. It's like he draws such beautiful vehicles. It's like he made this box and he made it look, nice. Like, wow, that's a pretty nice looking thing. And it's like, oh, but like I loved the beach scene. I wrote the beach scene
Yes.
with him, and I just thought, oh,
Yes.
he's gonna knock that out of the park. It's gonna be beautiful. It's gonna be perfect for him. And we can do all the soap opera stuff. And I had so much fun with that issue. I feel like people like didn't really. Some people didn't really know what to make of it, which is understandable because it was me in just comedy mode.
Yeah.
But like I know people got very into the bit where it was like I kind of dropped that horror beat in because it was like, well, we've got to kind of look at the elephant in the room that this is, why is Roxanne putting out
Sure.
this gag book? And it's like, well, if this is the Roxanne comic as it appears, there's got to be a reason. We've got to and if Thor's reading it, oh, we can get really, we can have the comic speak directly to Thor and say some, just say it like it is, that like there's only so much you can do in this place with these tools. Sorry, I'm as compromised as anybody else.
It reminded me of
that was fun.
It reminded me of when Grant had Animal Man suddenly realized that somebody was reading his comic book back in the 90s.
Well, I
that
think,
was kind of the vibe in a different way, but I don't know
yeah,
why
but
it felt
when
familiar
you
in that way,
said
in a good way.
When you said Grant, I thought you were going to bring up that issue of the Invisibles where they get hit by that sigil that makes them also critique themselves,
Yes,
and they all like bring in all of the stuff that like
good
they
point.
could be criticized for, and it's all stuff like, oh yeah, this is revolution as products, this is rebellion as consumable.
Yes,
And so once
even
again,
darker.
standing on the shoulders of giants, doing nothing that Grant didn't do before.
Yeah, but Al,
Oh,
truly, you got your own spin on it, and certainly, I meant that as a compliment. I certainly didn't mean
I
that
know,
as
I know, but like,
you know,
it is no, definitely that issue of the Invisibles was a big influence on like
interesting.
my
Yeah.
thinking there.
Yeah.
Like, there's only so much you can do.
No, and
The one
truly,
thing
go ahead, please. I'm
I was
stepping
going to
on
say,
you.
the one thing, like the splash page ending. When I was a kid, like I remember like Morrison comics in particular, they were hitting like thunderbolts, and it was like I remember like an issue of Doom Patrol that just like ended on a splash, and it was the first issue of Doom Patrol I had, and I was like, wow, this is such a good ending. And I was also like, they were always ending their issues like that, and it was like, and I just naturally, I got influenced by it so much that like, when I was writing these American comics, it was like, well, what's the best ending? Oh, splash page ending, obviously. And it's like, yeah, now I end every issue with a splash page, and it's
Yes,
like, it's
that's
the best
beautiful,
ending.
man.
I don't know
Oh,
what to tell you. I don't. I'm stealing from the greats, but it is the best ending. It's like,
Al, yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
what to tell you.
yeah. No, you always end with a punch, man, and even without spoiling everybody, next week's Metamorpho, big punch at the end.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. That's not a splash page ending. That's got
no,
more than one thing.
but it is a big panel, and it is a
It is
big like,
fun.
oh
It
my,
is fun.
you know.
Yeah, we
So,
do. We do. Without wanting to spoil, we pull a trick that I haven't seen pulled since I since before I was born. But comics used to end that way all the time, and we're ending that way again. And more than that, I will not say.
fair enough, attaboy, and truly, Al. Again, I am all about opening my presents on December 25th. I don't
Oh,
want
sure, sure, sure.
so
I
it's
mean,
all good, man.
and Metamorpho One was one of those presents.
It's great, man. It truly is. Um, well, can we should lateral to some of these other titles. You've
Yeah,
been, I
yeah,
mean,
let's.
God, I mean, we've already been talking for an hour. Are we cool to keep going?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can keep going like for ages. At some point, I'm gonna have to check my mouth, but like,
No, no, Al,
um,
I'm interrupting you, and people want to hear your thoughts
no,
because
no, no,
you're the man. I'm just
I can keep going for another
okay.
hour easily. If my voice starts to go, I'll get up and get another can from the fridge. But
There
like,
you go.
aside from that,
Outstanding, man.
aside from that,
Well, everyone's been asking about Venom, and truly,
sure.
God, Al, I did not see this coming. I really appreciated the mystery you were unfolding here and everything. And I'm like, all right, who is it? Who's got the symbiote now? Mary Jane was not on my dance card, and Jackpot
No,
being Venom.
nobody's.
Yeah, yeah, I think he
A
shocked us all.
couple of people guessed it very early doors. I feel like one or two people I noticed guessed it on issue one, which was just like, they know me too well. Um, and then, of course I'm gonna do like, I pitched it as a wild dog. It's a Reign of the Superman. Um, but the mystery kind of came first because I felt like I'd got myself into a really rarefied kind of super cosmic realm with Venom up to that point because, That's how me and Rom had started it, and then
Hmm.
Rom had gone to do some, I believe, out tomorrow, New Gods. Just some amazing stuff. Loving what he's doing at the minute. But like, so I was sort of like coming on with that, and like, I felt like I wanted to carry on with it because Jordan was taking over as editor, and
Okay.
I wanted to work with him some more. Uh, and also I was like, I'd kind of like to write like, um, I wanted to change the tone a little bit before, my off ramp. Like I kind of wanted to write something a little close to a spider book. I thought it'd be interesting to kind of play Venom a little bit as like a Spider-Man type hero.
Sure.
But part of the kind of the sort of let's play this as a fun book for a while, and then we'll make Carnage like really dark. And we already had the idea that we were going to like swap Eddie to Carnage, um, and we didn't know who was going to write that yet. But then, we found Charles Soule, who's been doing an absolutely, and he had the best ideas for that status quo. It was just like, beautiful. So that was great. Uh, But me, I knew I wanted to do a mystery, and I wanted to kind of do like a kind of who is Venom thing, because I thought this is a character we can do that with, and that's always fun. Um, and like we can do the thing where we have all of the suspects, and it's none of them, and we drop secret clues that it's like a fifth person. Um, and like basically, so we were like, let's do a list of everybody, and it's like. But like the first thing we thought was pretty much like the first thing after we was like, okay, who is Venom? It was like the first thing we kind of thought was like, well, oh, huh, you know who it could be, Mary Jane. And we were like, can it be? We can't do that. Can we do that? We can do that. We can do that. And it was like, okay, so Mary Jane's going into it, and I immediately thought, well, he's gonna look like a big buff guy, and
Sure.
inside it's Mary Jane, and that is, that's great, that's fun, that's sort of that plays with all the expectations. That's like, and it's like, but Venom, because Mary Jane is in charge, um, I think in next issue we kind of we really hang a lampshade on that. That like Venom can't do. Venom at the end of the day is a symbiote. It's like he's got a lot more. I mean, I'm calling him he, but like he's got a lot more identity than he started off with. But he's still
Yes.
the person within is still in charge. So it's like he's fighting different. He's doing all this Mr. Fantastic stuff. He's quipping a lot. He's doing kind of like much more. The idea was for him to do a lot more kind of swashbuckling type stuff. But the thing we latched onto very quickly was like using the symbiote to pull a bunch of Plastic Man stuff. And it's like, that's basically
Fun.
what's a thing Venom that he could do because it's a symbiote, it's a goo creature,
Yeah.
um, that Mary Jane would have the imagination and like the idea to kind of do. And basically, so we wanted to do the mystery, we wanted to kind of reveal Mary Jane. The mystery is also a good way to sort of set Venom up with a kind of supporting cast. Robbie's kind of going to be back in there. Rick's going to be back in there.
Flash coming up,
Flash
obviously.
just turned up. Flash just turned up at the end again at the
Yep.
end of last issue. I believe some art has surfaced of a lovely scene in Central Park, um, with MJ Flash.
I'm sure.
I do have plans to like cycle Luke Cage back into the narrative.
Cool.
Um, there's the idea is like to kind of obviously because Mary Jane is like a built as a supporting cast character. Um, if we're gonna have her, if we're gonna take a penny, we've got to put a penny back. If we're gonna have this great supporting cast character like become a superhero, and she was already, she was jackpot
Yeah,
already. Yeah,
yeah, jackpot.
we
Sure.
weren't, we weren't doing anything that hadn't been done. We've got to kind of make sure she's got a reasonable supporting cast, of people without powers. So like Robbie's around, Dylan's around, love him or hate him, Paul is around. It's like all of these people are. I do see Paul as just an incredibly ordinary person. Like I don't think he's the devil. I don't think he's a saint. He's not like MJ's ideal man. I mean, they should not be together. That is a spot. They should not be together. I'm saying it. Carlos is saying it. We're all saying it.
Oh, come on, we're all saying it.
But
Absolutely, man.
I don't like.
But that's part of the fun of the story. I mean,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
still
yeah.
get the reader reaction
I
of
don't.
what the fuck, but also it's like, no, but that's good, man. You got to put people in complicated situations and watch how they get
Not
out of
gonna.
them or deal with them. Yeah,
He's not gonna pull off a rubber mask and it's the Red Skull under there.
exactly.
It's
It's not a
like
Ned Leeds, or was it not Ned? Well, I suppose Hobgoblin. I forget
no.
who Hobgoblin was back in the
He
day.
would make a really great Hobgoblin. Oh,
Paul
I
would
think
make a good.
somebody. I think somebody already is the Hobgoblin. Someone already is the Hobgoblin. Can't do that. But
Yeah,
like, I mean, I'm not as, I don't hate Paul as much as most people. I don't exactly love it, but like, I kind of, my goal writing him is to sort of, he's just, he's kind of needy. He's kind of like, he's not great. It's not a great relationship. It's probably coming to an end.
sure.
But
Yeah, man. I mean, really, I appreciate the shouting
I
chatter, but
I
yeah,
hate
man,
to
we
I
all
hate
know.
to disappoint you, but uh, it's not like I'm sneaking into the building in the dead of night to write these comics. It it all goes through editorial.
Of course, man.
This
Of
kind of
course.
like this kind of motivate this. Okay, here's the thing. I'm going to get a little bit serious for here. There are times when I think that people imagine that the people in the comics and the people who work on the comics are the same level of real.
I'm hip.
Like we're all as fictional as each other.
Yes.
Um, People come up with these little fan fictions about what's going on behind the scenes, and it's like, no, you're always way off. You're always way off. I mean, there will come a point, like there's stuff I can't talk about, but there will come a point where I will be able to tell you exactly what editorial thinks of Paul, and you'll see it with your own eyes. But like, no, no, that's I cannot say anything more about future
I
storylines, but I
I
will say, I don't hate Paul as much as the readers do. I just think he's not great. He's not a monster, but he's not great. Um,
people are asking the obvious question, which is, when is Peter gonna show up and see all these crazy changes in these
yeah,
people in his life?
that is something I have had discussions with Joe Kelly about. With those discussions, we've sort of, there's a plan. We're
Okay.
sticking to it. Uh, but I know this is one you absolutely don't want to hear ahead of time on a podcast or on a tweet or like any of that. You'll want to
Oh yeah.
watch it play out. Um, but like, yeah, you want to watch it play out. So all I will
Yeah.
say is that we're not at like cross purposes with Spider Office on this. We're like, or with Joe Kelly, we're not like bumbling around in the dark, unaware of each other's movements.
I'm hip. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so that's all I'll say on that. Which is
Yeah.
like,
That's well. And truly,
we've
Al.
got
Go ahead.
the
I
bigger
keep
scene.
stepping on you, Al. You got more to
No, no,
say,
no.
please.
It's like, I mean, Joe basically pitched me some really fun scenes. And with Free Comic Book Day, there was a very brief teaser, like a 4-page teaser for like an upcoming crossover thing.
That's cool.
So if you picked up that FCBD issue, um, we all had a little bit of a go on that. We kind of I wrote all of the sort of Venom captions, and then Joe wrote all of the Spider-Man captions, and Charles wrote Eddie's captions, and then we all collaborated a little bit on the other captions. Um, I think I can't remember. I don't think I did like final pass on those. I think that was either Joe or Charles.
Okay.
But like we got, we had somebody basically like take control of the voice for those. But yeah, more of that will be revealed in the full thing. And hopefully, everybody enjoys it.
Well, again, the mere fact that we've got a great conversation between Flash and Mary Jane coming up next issue
Yeah.
is exciting in its own right. Because again, I think truly the different things that all the Spider writers have been putting both of those characters through for the last 10 or 15 years has really been interesting to watch, and especially Flash. I really man, giving Flash a chance to really be a hero, and now as Anti-Venom and everything, I think has been very interesting.
I'm really enjoying writing Flash. I'm really enjoying kind of like I'm enjoying writing Mary Jane. I'm enjoying
Cool.
this sort of like it's I feel like by bringing all of these characters kind of in a way that like, because previously it was like we were very much in Eddie's head or in Venom's head,
Yes.
in, occasionally in Dylan's head. And it was like they were all of them like on the run, going through different countries. They weren't really connecting with the Spider world.
Agreed.
Except right at the end when, we brought Peter in and I got to like write Peter again, very briefly. Which I always enjoy. I always love that.
Cool.
But like getting to write so much of Peter's supporting cast, it feels like that kind of Peter Parker-y energy just infuses the whole book now. Um, to the extent that like I think MJ has caught a dose of the Parker luck a little bit. Um, and it was very important. Like having done the mystery, it was really important that like she had like a working secret identity, and I like the idea of Venom having a secret identity again,
Agreed.
both from the point of view of like outer shell, having to navigate this, but also the person inside who's calling the shots. So yeah, it's really fun. I'm having a good time in that book. I'm gonna get up tomorrow and write some more of it. That's tomorrow's job, is writing a little bit about him.
Amen. Well, that's beautiful, man. No, and again, I you've put them in a complicated position as well, given that both are dependent on each other's life force to exist, and it's
Yeah,
that's even more of a dire, combination
this
of hey, we
was
need each other
important
whether we like it or not.
given like MJ's previous experiences with the symbiote. I kind of felt like they couldn't really choose to be together. It's not something MJ would sort of do
Sure.
just to keep the superhero thing going. I think she feels a responsibility to like,
Yes.
she's kind of learned from like decades of watching Peter, and also, from experiences in her own life. She ran away from her own sister. She's sort of run away a lot. This is kind of
Yes.
right. Being Jackpot and now being Venom was like a form of like taking more responsibility, of not sort of running away, of fighting that impulse inside her. But like, definitely, they are the odd couple. They're like, I describe them in an upcoming list as the world's strangest roommates. They're like, there's nothing romantic going on between Venom and MJ. I'm going to skip
No.
that rumor. She is not his type. But like, or vice versa. But like,
Indeed.
they are the world's strangest roommates. They're stuck together. They're like the odd couple. They're kind of, it's that classic thing of like, they won't always get along. I feel like there's an argument brewing between them.
Sure.
And it's like, yeah, they're not always going to get along, but they're not going to be able to, separate just yet.
It
And that's kind of part of the story is like, how do they both get out of this? Because it's not a situation either really wants to be in like long term.
sure.
Um, Venom's got responsibilities, like MJ's got responsibilities. It's like it's not something that really works for either of them. But they're making it work.
Any thought of comparing that relationship to Bruce and the Hulk?
It's very different. I think
Yes.
tonally it's very different. Like
Yeah.
because MJ and Venom, and especially the way we're doing all new Venom, like yeah, it's like big smiles at the cover. It's human teeth. It's like functioning as a superhero. It's very much like Venom as a spider book, but with a
Sure.
little of that Venom darkness kind of slowly creeping in at the edges. But like no, I feel like Hulk is it's a very different situation. I think I don't know if like I don't know. I mean, seeing kind of Bruce and Hulk like function even as a team feels increasingly different. Like you know, we talk about like the cycles of comics. Bruce and Hulk are kind of trapped in their own cycle of like attempting to accept one another and then, cycles of like violent rejection of one another.
Yes.
So like to have them as like superheroes, I'm really enjoying like what Philip Kennedy Johnson's doing in the run now. That's been really interesting. Like taking that horror vibe and really running with it. That's been good.
I agree. I
Um,
agree. Yeah, and a
yeah,
different flavor than what you gave us for that long
yeah,
run.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
Very. I
again,
mean,
that's you
I think
kind
we
of have
have to
to
be.
come in. Yeah,
I,
and truly, Al, and just like you with Venom and everything, which I know the seeds were planted in the event and everything, but still, it's yeah,
I mean, it's true of any comic, but like the more I write it, the more I get it. Um, it's like when I'm envious of people who can sort of 100% know where they're going on issue one. Um, but like I think issue one of All New Venom did it really helped like establish a tone. But I think having the mystery to play out and having that time to like think about, and during that time, just presenting like supporting cast, Andrew's home life, like, kind of but it gave me that little bit of breathing room to really sort of think through how I saw the characters and kind of and that's always good. Um Yeah, I do envy people who can like just hit because the more you write a character, the more you get them. Um, and you always come in with like a very clear idea of the character. There's you don't get to be on the book if you don't, but like
sure,
it's like riding a bike, you can ride a bike when you first start riding a bike, but like
you
after
get
like
better
a
at it.
year of riding the bike,
Yeah,
you can really ride the bike.
I'm hip. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, you got to the point where you didn't have to have the hands on the handlebars anymore, man, and you
Yeah,
were
yeah,
you
yeah,
were just
exactly, exactly. Yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
showed.
Freehand, wheelies, all of that.
Absolutely. Chatham wanted to know what pushed you to make such a change to a character like Hal Jordan and decide to make Joe the headliner for Absolute Green Lantern.
Yeah, I mean, that's good. A good way to put it. Joe is kind of the headliner. Joe's sort of the hub around which the ensemble cast kind of revolves. The Green Lantern is a giant half a mile wide object. That is the Green Lantern. That's whose name is on the masthead. So like it is more of an ensemble piece than I think even I expected to begin with.
Interesting.
So we're getting to begin with, we're kind of getting a lot of Hal. We're getting a lot of John. We're getting, and slowly Jo is kind of revealing herself. Absolute Jo is kind of revealing herself, and it's like I find that really interesting, and it's something that's kind of come just through the way the story was told, which is like the present is like a kind of showdown between, or a meeting between Jo and Hal, and like the past is how all this came into being, and we sort of it's quite slow paced, deliberately paced. Um, but like one thing I've noticed is that in the regular universe, Sojourner Malane is like the greatest detective, like an incredible detective, like a natural super detective. And in the Absolute universe, she's like a box of secrets. Um, she, she becomes the person to be detected, and you'll kind of see when we meet her ex-wife. We'll see how how that affected her personal life. But like, yeah, I'm fan. I'm really enjoying writing Jo, but I'm kind of enjoying writing Absolute Jo just because
Cool.
she's so full of like, she reveals something new to me with every issue I write, and it's great. I love that. It's almost like I'm not creating the character. I'm sort of discovering this version of the character. But like, yeah, as to why we did what we did to Hal, I think Hal can take it as the short version. Um, if Hal can't take it, then he's not the character I thought he was. Uh, and but I'm sure, if you're a fan of Hal, yeah, he can take it. He can take some lumps. Um, he's big enough. He's a big enough character to take the knocks. But yeah, basically from the start, the pitch of the universe was like this is a universe that sort of, and Scott Snyder will undoubtedly talked about this, but this universe that sort of it sort of almost runs on the energy of dark side. It's like
Yes.
it's a grim universe. It's a universe where the heroes are like have to fight against the tide. So like Hal is burdened with, not this like wonder weapon, the Green Lantern ring that will like make any of his thoughts come true, but this horrible weapon that like acts without him. That's like he's got to like exercise his willpower to like keep under control, and even that doesn't really do it. It's like this thing that's riding him.
Yes.
And it is as we find out more of the and I'm kind of in the middle of like this big issue where like a whole bunch of the workings of what the green power is and how it relates to these other powers like the Black Hand. Um, where how all these things relate, what Abid Sur is. We start issue 4. I just did like a lettering check on. We kind of get a lot of what's the thing. Um, and over like I'm kind of in the middle of writing an issue now where we get a bunch of revelations, and I'm sort of working out exactly how to lay all this out, how to kind of keep the sort of mystery of it, but also just reveal to people like exactly what Jo has become, exactly what Hal has become, how they all fit together, how it all connects, how it works in this universe, which is very, very different to how it works in the regular universe, like completely different. Um, the emotional spectrum, it maybe it existed a very long time ago, but some primordial event broke it, and now we have this. It's like that's and you know that that might not even be. I'm just trying to kind of like, you know what? Probably not. That's probably not what happened. But like, maybe it's just different because I'm thinking, no, a lot of the absolute heroes they were a lot younger. It's not like that thing where like an event happened and it changed history. The people are different. Everybody's really different here. But like, yeah, basically, I mean, I just watched. Here's something I'm going to have trouble living up to. I told you I finally got around to watching Twin Peaks, and that included finally watching The Return and episode 8 of The Return, and that just, I mean, the whole thing blew me away. I'll defend I'll defend the whole thing, to the end, like the ending, all of it. I'll defend all of it. But like episode 8 in particular, I thought was one of the most like audacious, brilliant pieces of television I've ever seen. Um, and just unrelenting. It just bombards you. I mean, you know what I'm talking about.
I do.
Yeah, it just
Have you
bombards you.
have you watched Fire Walk with Me, the movie?
Yes, I watched
Okay.
the. It's really hard. It's really, really
Yeah.
difficult to find any kind of physical copy, you
Oh,
can't find it on streaming. It's really hard
okay.
to find a physical copy even.
Because yeah,
Um,
I mean, it's a tough movie to watch. Period. But yeah. I can
I
appreciate
ended
also
up
getting the physical copy. Yeah.
I ended up watching the fan edit. So it's the movie spliced in with all of the missing pieces.
Understood. Yes.
And it's something like 4 hours. And it's
Yeah.
just like I guess I could have watched Follow Up With Me and then the missing pieces. I feel like that would have been a very different experience. Maybe still not the experience David Lynch fully intended. Maybe I don't know if I feel like he said somewhere he didn't have like the final cut of that one. But like, yeah, I feel like we got all there was to get, and there were things in that I later found out that were from the missing pieces that I saw in Follow Up With Me, and they were just some of the most potent scenes. The scene where she's looking at the fan and her expression changes slowly over a period. That was hard to watch. That was terrifying on a level that like, and it's just Cheryl Lee doing an expression moving her face. It's like, that's an incredibly talented expression work. Just really, really frightening. Just watching that happen. Um, I'm noticing on the camera how long my beard is getting. It's huge right now. I'm going the full Jason Aaron. I think after this I'm gonna like give it a trim. So next time I'm on your show, I'll look a bit better.
Let's woolly. I understand.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Yeah.
That's you wear it well, dude. Don't sweat it. It's all good. David wanted to
Fair
know
enough.
if your John Stewart is an homage to Dwayne McDuffie. There's a theory about that amongst fans.
Not an intentional one. I'll take it as like a subconscious thing. Um, it wasn't intentional.
Did you ever meet him?
I'll- no, unfortunately, no. I don't believe I'd broken into American comics on any significant level when he died.
Okay.
Um, I
Great guy.
don't I don't believe I ever got the chance, unless I might have. There's a slim chance I might have been in the room with him once, but like, did I meet him? I don't remember meeting him. I don't think I did.
Sweetheart of a guy. Gentle
I
giant
would
is
have,
the easiest to
I would have remembered. By all accounts, like he was such a lovely man. It's the kind of meeting.
really.
It's the kind
Yeah.
of meeting I'm sure you treasure. But no, it wasn't intentional. I kind of my idea of John was sort of a distillation of many versions of John I'd read in the regular universe, like from the original to kind of, but varying away a little bit from the sort of the soldier John Stewart, in that he's clearly had some kind of military experience and some kind of military training. That's pretty evident in issue 2, but like he doesn't really talk about it. So we it's not kind of the same where he's sort of the context building are very sort of informed by that. It's more he's sort of more esoteric. It's kind of the John who listened to jazz and sort of thought a lot about philosophy. Um, but like it's still John Stewart though. It's still him.
Oh yeah.
Um, but it's like he there's I mean I don't want to spoil um I do not want to spoil what what becomes of him, but he sort of yeah, I'll just let that silence speak for me
All
for
right,
now.
all right.
I really
That's
don't want to. It's really tough not to just go on a ramble about all of this stuff because part of the way I've been trying to sort of like sell this book was by being as mysterious about it as possible. Like really, this was one of the books where I was really trying to like say nothing. I believe the thing I kept saying to people in interview after interview was like the less you know going in, the more you will be on level with like the characters in the book. It's like remove from your head anything you have ever thought about regular Universe Green Lantern. It is like the thing I wanted to do with the absolute version was, I mean, it started off as like no rings, no lanterns, but like, and if we can avoid the color green, but like, but it started off as no rings, no lantern, and then a sort of a ring found its way kind of organically back into it. But I think the original solicit still kind of went out as like without the ring, and like she's got a giant ring. It's like, well, yeah, without she has a ring. But like the ring kind of found its way back in organically in a way that'll like um will reveal itself to the reader as they read. Again, I'm not going to spoil it. But like, but all of these things, all these pieces of the Green Lantern universe, um, I kind of avoided them in terms of, but then I allowed them to make their own way back in. Um, so that when they return to the story, they return in new ways. And that's part of like how becoming kind of the Black Hands. That was like, part of sort of John coming in. Even Evergreen as a location from previous Green Lantern series. Hal being a toy salesman. It's like
yeah.
little bits and pieces of Green Lantern lore. I didn't. I didn't say like, well, I don't want to do anything. So now Green Lantern's going to be a, a rodeo bull rider in Greece, and his name's gonna be he's gonna be Todd Rice, and it's like, I didn't do that. I was just like, okay, well, let's remove from my head everything about Green Lantern I know. Let's break it all down. Let's atomize it, and then from this soup of details, I can take little things. So the whole thing has a resonance of Green Lantern. It sort of resonates with the reader. It's like, reading it, the reader should feel sort of like moments of deja vu, moments of sort of a phrase I used in the pitch to describe the absolute universe as a whole, and like what I saw it as was like the familiar made strange, the strange made familiar. Um, but it's very much like meant as a kind of, I really want readers to feel, this sort of this deja vu like thing when they come across a thing they recognize, that it comes to them in such a new context to like, so there's that first one of familiarity, but at the same time there's a strangeness that comes with it.
Understood.
That's the goal. That's the goal here.
Yeah. No,
Um,
and truly, I wonder again, because I love the fact that, as you say, the Green Lantern is Abin Sur's vessel that suddenly
yeah.
descends on this giant, in this town, and I go back to those initial images of the absolute universe and the shot of whether it was Gotham or whatever, and there's the dark side anti-equation, Omega, there on one of the buildings and everything, and that I almost wonder if, and again, you don't have to reveal, but that as a counterweight to the despair, that perhaps this Green Lantern is a counter signal of bigger things beyond what you're giving us initially.
I mean, you're not a million miles away.
All right.
But it's, I mean, again, as I go, I'm gonna basically explain. Um, I'm gonna basically sort of explain how it all fits together. Um,
Sure.
but also like who. or what the Ab Sur is, what it means to be an Ab Sur. It's like down to like what Abin means in the language, what Sur means in the language. But like it's and then the when I explain that, it implies more things that I will then explain in turn, and it's like even revealing that much feels like a spoiler that there are bigger things out there than even you have seen in the comics so far. It's sort of I think out of the absolute line, with the possible exception of Martian Manhunter, it it's re it's sort of going the furthest out there, and I feel like Martian Manhunter's out there on a different axis. We're both attempting to do um psychedelic comics about aliens, but we're
Yeah, I'm
attempting
hip.
to do it.
Yeah,
We're all working in different ways, different tones, different kind of doing different things, different directions. And that's true of the whole absolute line. I mean, the Flash as well is like I feel like at this point we've got a nice little axis of directions where like each of the books is pointing in a different direction, and like as we move along these directions, we're going to start exploring more of this universe and mapping out more of this universe. And eventually, as we start, as these, it's like a map of Minecraft. Like eventually the maps you're making with other people start to connect,
I'm hip.
and you start seeing how, and that's coming. We all talk to each other on a very regular basis. We're all like, we're doing. We've got a pretty good idea now of like the map is getting more and more and more. I mean, I made a joke earlier about like absolute metamorpho. Like nobody's mentioned it in the room yet, so he doesn't exist. We don't know what he is. We haven't shone that light on him yet. But like eventually, we're probably gonna just because eventually that light's gonna shine on everybody. But these characters are gonna have sort of absolute versions,
Interesting.
and it's just a question of whether it's just a question of whether they make it into a story or they don't. Are we going to see like absolute Jason's Quest? Probably not. Um, absolute Johnny Double. You never know. Um, but like, it's like, one, theoretically, all of these characters have absolutes. Um, it's, are we gonna see them? Will the story take us there? It will or it won't.
Well, again, take your time to all of you. And that's what I told Lemire. That's what I told Snyder. And it's like, you don't have to rush this. I really appreciate, like you said, the different directions you're all going in to tell your stories. Kelly, too. Thompson as well with Wonder Woman.
Oh, I
And,
love
we'll
Wonder
get there. We can get
Woman.
there. We're patient. I'm just so happy that this has resonated so well with readers. Because
Yeah,
even I'm like, I don't know, man. Good luck. Do we need this? Do we want this? And a lot of times it's the great surprises that you're all providing us with that are
I
really
mean,
fun to read and discover. I mean, that's the thing, we're rediscovering these characters all over again.
here's the thing. Like, I was inside the room. I was like, I'd already been approached to like, do you want to do an absolute book? Do you want to pitch us some absolutes? And the Green Lantern pitch was the one they really liked. Um, so I was in the room, but when I read Batman issue 1, I was surprised. I was just blown away. I was like, oh my, woof. This is the most excited I've been. I didn't know I could be excited by Batman in this way. And I knew the story. God had walked me through it. But like something about Scott and like Nick
Yeah,
and
yeah.
seeing it on the page, seeing how it worked on the page. Because Scott will tell you the story. I think we all know that at this point, but like until you see it on the page, you don't get the story.
I'm hip.
Um, like, and when I saw it on the page, I was like, if I'm getting this reaction, this is going to hit like a bomb. And we all knew it. And like, we were like watching everybody go like, oh man, that bat symbol. Oh, what's up with that? He's so muscly. And we were just going like, and we were just hearing this ticking in our ears of the bomb that was about to drop. And then it landed and okay, now everybody's interested. And it's like been wonderful. And uh yeah, I just hope I can keep up on my end. I think um I mean, well, I think there are people who've really enjoyed Absolute Green Lantern, and I think we're gonna go with the sort of slow burn nature of it and the slow, deliberate pace. And I do kind of want to do that episode 8 of Twin Peaks thing on the comic page. I'm kind of working out how. I don't think I'm going to be able to, but I sort of, it's definitely infected my thinking. Um, so, if I manage it, you're going to know about it. But I
Excellent.
think, no, now I want to, yeah, that's going to be a good issue. It's going to be a great.
Outstanding, man. Pumpkin Time wants to know, do you see yourself working on any indie work over the horizon? He loved the spectacle
Mm.
of We Only Find Them When They're Dead.
I do, yeah. There's an indie thing I really need to there's an indie thing I really need to crack on with, which I'm slightly behind on, which is bad because I need to get it done because not everything can be work for hire. Um, but yeah, definitely there's indie projects I've got swimming around. There are things. Um, Yeah, there's an indie project in particular that's been swimming around for years, which I need to pull into the world, and that probably means, you know, pulling on myself and my bootstraps to an extent. Sucks up a little bit, but the work for hire, I do enjoy it. I do
Beautiful.
enjoy working on the CPRS. But yeah, there's always more indie stuff. I've always got plans. And I will execute those plans. And if I don't, I'll be very upset with myself, and you can read that on my tombstone.
Joltol Comics says, who's your favorite DC character? And by the way, your annual on Detective Comics was very good.
I do like Batman. Batman's fun. Batman's everybody's favorite. I'm not going to say Batman. Uh, I did enjoy writing Batman a lot. I had a really good time kind of finding my level with Batman. I think the notes I got back for the first draft was that my Batman was a little too chummy and a little too quirky, and a little too friendly. Needs to be a little bit spikier. I was like, oh, I get that, and I kind of find a little place for Dredd where, well, I said Dredd there for Batman, where he's sort of on that Judge Dredd level, where he's like, my thing with the way I write Dredd is that he's a very very funny guy. He drops a lot of quips and jokes and gags, but he's so deadpan that everybody thinks he's humorless. And I kind of see Batman that way, that like occasionally he'll just very quietly, very deadpan, he'll just get off a good one and then and it's business. And if anybody is like, wait, Batman's funny, he'll be like, no, I'm not. I don't know where you got that idea. I'm a creature of the night. But that's kind of how I feel about that. He does have a sense of humor, but he's just incredibly dry and deadpan. But I love writing Batman, and I love having Batman make a little joke occasionally.
The
Um,
There's that great scene at the near the end of Kingdom Come where they're in Planet Krypton and it's Superman,
yeah,
Batman, and Wonder Woman, and Batman says to Superman, or Superman's like, "What's been happening with Luthor?" He's like, I caught him trying to break into the Bat computer in the Batcave," and he goes, "He sends his regards," and Superman's like, "Really?" And Batman's like, no. And it's like, yeah, man. It's like, no, he pulls the chair out from under him. He's like, no, man, dumbass. He goes, he hates you. And again, I thought that's an example of Bruce's dry humor of like, no, he's not happy to see
Poor Clark. It's a wonderful thing about Clark as well. He just always wants to believe the best.
you. Absolutely.
Superman. I do like Superman. I like all of the DC heroes. They're all. Let's think about the DC heroes. They're all like really great. They're all these sort of exemplars, kind of a way. I guess I do have a very soft spot for the Flash. I guess probably if I had to pick, I mean, right now my favorite DC hero is probably Metamorpho because I'm still in love with him.
Sure.
But like, if I had to pick a nostalgic favorite, it might be Animal Man. I just remember those Animal Man comics with such a fondness.
Agreed.
And like he's one of those heroes. Like he's not. I mean, it's really easy to love Batman. It's really easy to love Superman. Um, Superman is just because Superman's just he's a great superhero, but he's also a really good person, and
Yes.
he's an exemplar of just being a really good person. And it's like the perfect man who came from the sky and did only good. It's like, yeah, he's a really great guy, and it's good to have heroes who are just really great people.
It's the way the
Whereas,
Kents raised him too. That's the
yeah,
man part of
yeah,
Superman. Of that, like, no, man, he was
it's
raised
nice
to
that
be a good guy.
he got that from his human side. Whereas like Animal Man is much more, especially from like the kind of 80s reinvention of him, he's much more of a sort of suburban, much more kind of down to earth.
Yes.
But like, and that down to earthness sort of comes into conflict with the slightly weird adventures that he gets, and it's like that's something about that that's really wonderful. But it's another of these characters that I don't think I'd want to write just because I don't think I could do better than the many, many great writers who've tackled him since that 80s reinvention, the
Sure.
post-crisis. Um, so I mean, I guess I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I I'm I guess I'll get a new character when they ask me who I want to write next. I'll think of somebody, or like they'll think of somebody, and that person will then become my new favorite character when I start researching them.
That's cool.
It'll be somebody I've never considered before. It'll be Jason's Quest. I'll be like, do you know what's so amazing? I'll be back on here going like, do you know what's so amazing about Jason's Quest? What?
Buddy,
Uh,
I'm with you on Buddy Baker though, because yeah,
yeah, yeah.
it is really suburban sitcom sort of guy and dad and family guy that all of a sudden has to deal with these weird DC things. I loved post 52 when Starfire was living with them, and his wife is like, hey, you basically have a supermodel like hanging out, and I don't know if our adolescent son can handle it. And he's like, like that doesn't happen to Bruce Wayne. That doesn't happen to the other pantheon of DC
Yeah, yeah.
heroes. And it's like that's so Buddy Baker of like, yeah, shit, sorry, all right. She was great to me when we were off in space, and I'm trying to help her figure out who she is and everything. So
It's
that's
really
why she's with us.
that's really great. And it's like, it was quite a feat that like Morrison, this like Scottish person was like able to write this, this perfect kind of suburban American like sitcom. It's kind of a signifier of the power of the American sitcom that like we all know the language like way over here.
But Al, honestly,
Uh,
I've said this before about a lot of, and forgive the generalization, but of a lot
yeah,
of
sure.
you British writers in general, not just the Scottish man that Grant is, but guys like James Robinson as well and yourself, that you guys come to these characters and you do bring this different perspective. And maybe all bets are when we, at least, and again, as a reader, maybe some of the American writers are so entrenched with the traditions of what has come for decades that it's almost like, well, I can't certainly go this way with a character. But it seems like a lot of you Brits, having grown up with what your perception is of the American cultural thing in general, but also through these characters, you're willing to take more risks and show areas of the characters that maybe
I think
the Americans don't think of.
there might be an element of that. There might have been with like the kind of the original British invasion coming from kind of a different comics tradition. Like a lot of the people who came in with the first British invasion was sort of. I mean, I'm doing it in my head now, and I count like two, but like 2000 AD people. Oh
Absolutely.
wait, no, wait, Wagner and Grant as well.
Yes.
Um, Wagner and Grant certainly. Moore did like a stint on 2000 AD doing the Future
Sure.
Shocks. Morrison did Zenith
Yep.
and again a bunch of Future Shocks. But it's
Yeah.
like yeah, and like 2000 AD is it's a real hothouse environment. You've got to kind of tell a story in like 5 pages, 6 pages. It really sharpens up your kind of your structure,
Agreed.
your density, and basically you're getting a good look at the amount of Pepsi Max I get. Um, bad for me. I've got to stop. But
It's all
like
right.
the yeah, the hippo figurines, I know they belong to my parents for ages. They've come to live here
Oh,
now.
very nice.
I have no, but they are nice. I feel no emotional connection towards them. They're now in the background of every Zoom call I make. So
Fair enough.
everybody assumes I like hippo figurines. Like, yeah, not really. They're just there. Um, but like, yeah, I don't know. I didn't collect them. Somebody did, and now they're mine. But it happens to a lot of people. I hear.
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah, basically, to get back to the British invasion, I think it is kind of swings and roundabouts because on the one hand, like, I guess we're able to bring like an outsider's perspective, but on the other hand, we've got to kind of research everything. If I want to know how like milk is sold, like what a bodega is, like
Sure.
school grades, how they relate
Yes.
to like ages. If somebody's in like eighth grade, what does that mean?
I'm
How
hip.
old is Super? How old is Supergirl when she's having her adventures in the eighth grade? I don't know. I've got to look it up.
I'm hip.
Um, like I assume like eight. I don't know. Like 10. Who knows? 12. I don't know. I've got to. So so it's all of this stuff, all this data on like the day-to-day living of American life. It's like we got to look up all this stuff. I mean, one thing I do, and I've got a little bit careful about going over to States now. I've got to be very careful with my visa, evidently. But like,
Yeah. Sorry.
yeah. But whenever I'm in New York, which every so often I am for business reasons, I always make sure to go up somewhere high and take a lot of photos of rooftops because that comes in handy. That comes in really handy. Every one of these rooftops in New York is a playground, like an adventure. There's water tanks, there's ducts, there's vents.
Oh yeah.
Um, anytime if I'm in like a hotel on a high floor, it's gold dust. It's like, oh, thank goodness I'm on a high floor. I get the whole city. Oh, look over there. That's what an amazing rooftop. What a great rooftop. And then like if I've got a bit of spare time, I mean, sometimes I'll take the subway if I'm in a hurry, but like generally I will walk because I'm walking through scenery. And this is much more useful over on the Marvel side because they all live in you. But like,
Yes. Yes.
um, even for like, I mean, for Gotham, you can be a little more loosey-goosey with it. You can sort of, you know, oh, in Gotham, the alleyways are very, very narrow. Like in New York, I've noticed the classic New York alley. There's like two of them. There's one in I think Brooklyn. I think there's another like somewhere up in the Bronx. They don't really exist.
No.
There's like just a couple of these tiny little alleys where like all the muggings are happening in superhero comics. There's like a ticket system. You've got to take your ticket and wait for your mugging. And then like, the superheroes are like all queuing at the other end of the alley going like, oh, it's my turn. But like yeah, so it's a little hard to get visual reference of a nice juicy alley like a crime encounter in that Spider-Man can start. Whereas in Gotham, you can just invent that. Yeah, all the buildings in Gotham are just they're built really close together. It's don't know what to tell you. There's gargoyles.
It's funny.
Uh,
Jeremy Hahn, when he was drawing Detective, was here in Chicago, and he was taking photos of the L trains and everything,
right,
and
it's
everyone's like,
Chicago, isn't it?
well, again, it's called Gotham, so it is fair to say New York.
Yeah.
But then the
Somebody,
Nolan movies certainly leaned on Chicago. The
no,
first two did.
somebody said that to me recently. Somebody, I forget who, but somebody said to me recently. We were talking about the fictional DC cities. Um, I think it was in relation to like Central City and like
Sure,
Keystone and all of that.
right?
But like, so it was probably on an absolute call on one of our Zoom meetings. But somebody mentioned that, like, yeah, Gotham is very based on Chicago. Um, and I've been to Chicago like a dozen times, but for C2E2, which is
Sure.
way on the outskirts and is in this little bubble of like it's inside the hotel.
Oh yeah.
So are all of the eating places. If you want to go to a restaurant actually in the city, you've got to get a cab.
Yes.
Um, so
Al,
like
I'll take
you
you if we're at a C2E2 at the same time. You're welcome to
something
join me.
something I should
I've taken Tom King and Mitch Garrett's to this great place, Miller's Pub, that literally is right off the elevated trains, and it's very Gotham, and
like
also it's a former sneak joint of a casino where they sold food on top. But if you knew the right word and stuff, you can go underground and place bets, and there was like a full
oh that's
casino
good.
and
That's
sports
good.
betting and everything. So yeah,
That's brilliant.
classic place. So yeah. No, you're right. You do have to go a little further north to get
Yeah.
into like the nitty gritty of Chicago. You're right about that.
But I did go to Chicago like the central city when I was a lot younger, and I remember the wind.
Oh
That's
yeah.
that's the one thing I really remember is the wind, which was
Oh yeah.
just they are not lying about the wind. It is like a knife through you.
100%.
And like, comparing it to like places like I've been to Inverness, I've been to like, I've been to the far north of Scotland. The wind in Chicago, it's different.
Interesting.
It is.
Yeah.
It's the windy city. It's yeah. It's kind of it's much more piercing somehow. I don't know how. Don't know if it's the buildings. Don't know what it is, but I remember that wind.
That's hilarious. Al, I'm gonna
Yeah,
let you go. It's been 2 hours, and I know
yeah. It has been
again.
for us. I was going to ask if like like give it. I don't know how you are for time, but like if there's any other questions, if there's any other last bits of business people want out of me. Um,
Well, we'll leave them wanting more if it's okay, because I got to prep. I told you I got to prep for
yeah,
SWAT,
you got to talk to Dan.
and that's
Tell
coming
him
up.
I'm
So
really
yeah,
yeah,
I'll.
tell him I'm really looking forward to his Superman stuff.
Well, we that will be certainly the main subject of what we're talking about. But truly, Al, you're killing it, and also again, it gives me an excuse to talk to you
Yeah,
when Thor comes back and is up and
yes.
running,
I mean,
and a few other things.
anytime.
But we still got two more issues of Immortal Thor
Yeah.
to get through before you wrap
Yeah,
things up.
and they're both doozies. The next issue coming up,
24.
some yeah, some very epic beats in that one, and then the issue after that is like extra sized. I think it's like 30 story pages.
Wow,
And it's really like various big beats that I don't think people are going to be able to predict.
very cool, man. Well,
So
yeah,
no,
I was
no,
gonna.
that was just me. That was just me saying so and ending it like that.
I see. Fair enough. Dot dot dot. And
Yeah.
yeah, and everybody next week we'll get the wrap up. This is issue five's cover for Metamorpho, but we'll get the sixth and final issue next week.
I will hold
And
up because on the inside of this variant cover, there is the regular cover, which if I can get the
yes,
light to stop shining on it, you've got oh man, there's the Metamorpho sun there is really bright on this
what could that mean?
on this thing, but there it is. Um, but like yeah, basically I'm very, very happy with that final issue. So please pick it up. I know you'll really enjoy it. Thank
There
you.
you go. Well, Mike Jones says they've all been doozies out, and they have indeed. And as we go further into the all new Venom mystery of Mary Jane and
I
Venom now together, and looking forward to the Flash conversation coming up
believe,
next issue.
yeah, and I believe solicits for issue 8 are out as well. So people know about Doc Ock for the 8th issue. We're bringing in the man with the 8 arms. How could
Doc
it be
Ock.
otherwise?
Doc
Oh,
Ock, absolutely.
tentacular, spectacular.
and of course the continuing mystery of the Green Lantern and what it all means for
Yeah,
Joe and
really.
Hal and the rest.
I am really enjoying working on that. That is a lot of fun.
Al, you're killing it, and honestly, I'm so glad we've had this chance to finally speak. And I'll probably
Yeah,
bug you in
thank
a
you.
few months to come back and
Yeah, yeah,
we can continue.
definitely,
That'd
definitely.
be great,
All
man.
right,
Thank you
I
so
will
much. Thanks for your
speak
time.
to you later.
Thanks everybody for watching. Dan and I are pre-recording, and I'll present that this week as well. But I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Al, and a lot more coming on Word Balloon Live this as we close out May. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Stay safe. Stay happy. Stay healthy.